It is a beautiful morning. I welcome you all to Unity South Twin Cities. I am Reverend James Stacey, and in a moment we will greet our visitors, but I'm going to jump ahead and say thank you for bringing your presence, your heart, your consciousness into our sanctuary and adding to our experience today. It's fun that Judy played that old song. I was sort of known for belting that out in my church in Syracuse, New York, where the actor McRae from the movie was from Syracuse, and I would sing that, and all of a sudden I looked on Facebook, and a friend back in Syracuse who does a daily devotional wrote about a friend of hers that would burst into song in the grocery store or on the street or whatever. She was talking about me. So I guess I left an impression back then. So thanks for the memories, Judy. For those of you who are joining us on Facebook Live or YouTube Live today, thank you. Please use that chat stream and tell us where you are, your name, and it helps us connect with you. So thank you for your presence. For those in our sanctuary, please silence your phones and other devices. Judy Moen and Geoff Jones are our musicians today, and our tech team is the amazing Patty Tangi, going solo and running everything today. So we are grateful for that. And I got so excited by, oh, what a beautiful morning, I forgot our opening song. So I invite you to join in our opening song. You'll find the words on the back of your bulletin. Spirit, guide my day. I invite you to join me in our opening prayer as we set our intention for this hour together, the rest of this day, the week ahead of us. The prayer contains some affirmative statements that I will guide you in. Let us pray. Rejoice, again I say rejoice. We gather in the knowledge that our Creator permeates every detail of our world. Rejoice, God is present. Will you join me? Rejoice, God is present. Father, Mother God, you are with us in this very moment. We do not have to recall the past to acknowledge you. We do not have to imagine the future. We experience your all-embracing love and wisdom now. Rejoice, God is now. Rejoice, God is now. We gather this hour to call forth our faith in your benevolence. Whatever our challenges, whatever our celebrations, you sustain us moment by moment by healing, prospering, and awakening our souls. Rejoice, God is good. Rejoice, God is good. We acknowledge you are the Creator and the very substance of all good things. We form our intentions around your truth and commit our lives to continually expressing our inheritance of power. As we and all people are your children, we now speak our statement of being. Together, There is but one presence and one power in my life, in this church, and in the universe, God, the omnipotent good, and so it is. And now I invite my august worship assistant, Carol Moen, to the platform.
Good morning. I welcome you to Unity South Twin Cities, whether you are watching online or seated here in the sanctuary. We welcome visitors joining in person or online for the first time. Let us greet them by affirming together, we welcome you, we bless you, and we're glad you're here. For our joyous gathering today, let us hold this thought. I behold the Christ in you. Let us speak it together. I behold the Christ in you. As we hold our celebration service today, we can also be mindful of the diversity of religious celebrations held throughout the world. Let us honor seekers everywhere who turn their attention toward the one Spirit permeating creation. We offer this blessing for all communities. We honor the truth in you. With me? We honor the truth in you. Now, returning our focus to our ministry, we join the Unity South centering statement with focused thought and warmth of feeling. Together? Centered in God, assured by faith, prospered by divine love, we boldly move forward to serve humanity by building our lives and Unity South Church together. Join us next Sunday, August 22nd, as Reverend Stacey leads us through the Bible in his lesson, Let's Get Out of Here. Inspired by the Hebrew central story of their exodus from Egypt. We will consider any circumstances that we are experiencing as bondage or limitation of our ability to choose and act from our free will. We can consciously decide where we will go or not, what we will do or not, how we will be or not. Judy Moen and Claire Vander Cromet will be our musicians, and I will be your service assistant. Now let us prepare for a time of community prayer as I read the daily word. The daily word is joy. I say yes to the joy that invites me in this moment. Joy is the call of my heart. Whether I am at work or at play, I bring a spirit of joyfulness to everything I do. More than a mood or an attitude, joy is part of me and mine to live and to share. Like all aspects of my divine identity, joy flowers in my consciousness when I hold joyful thoughts and feelings. I express my joy as the excitement of anticipation, fascination at a new discovery, deep satisfaction in a relationship, and a tranquil glow from communing with God in prayer. My joy is contagious, and I love to share in it. I have feelings of joy when I take part in friends or family members' joyous moments, their celebrations, and their accomplishments. I feel quiet joy when I offer encouragement, and even when I give comfort, grateful to share the care and love of God. Sharon Rawlson is our prayer chaplain.
We acknowledge the power of praying together. Together with Silent Unity today, let us pray the healing power of divine life within me strengthens and revitalizes me. Retreating from our external activities for a time, we anchor ourselves in the awareness of God. We recognize our divine identity as we acknowledge the fullness of life within each other. We breathe in slowly, and we release that breath, and we are aware of peace in this very moment. With every beat of my heart, I relax into peace. Every circumstance, every concern that I have, I continue to relax into peace. As we focus on the soft, continuous rain that extinguishes the fires that are burning out of control in Canada and the United States and all other areas, let's take a moment to visualize that rain coming down gently. We also pray for those in Haiti who are affected by an earthquake of yesterday. Every cell in our body is filled with healing power and strength as we are revitalized. We connect to the infinite, abundant spiritual supply, and we appreciate the power of God as we recognize all that we have, all that we desire. We are aware of plenty. We affirm peace as we include every name and situation in our prayer box. We know that Spirit is working in the life of each and every individual, awakening to the presence of God as their health and supply and sense of purpose are made known. Being in the oneness with God, we become ambassadors of harmonious, divine love in the world. We strive to become kind and compassionate, to live peacefully in the world with all people. In a consciousness of peace, power, and plenty, we emerge from this prayerful place to be the radiant light of the world. Let us now sing the Lord's Prayer as we feel the truth that is expressed in the model of prayer as taught by Jesus. Reverend Stacey? I don't have it. I'm sure it's here. To remind you that prayer is the very center of the unity practice here at this church. A prayer chaplain is here every day of the week, with the exception of Saturday and Friday. We encourage you to pray one-on-one with me today out in the prayer garden behind the church or here in the church building, whichever you're more comfortable with, for 15 minutes following the service. Just a reminder that all prayers are confidential. And now Jeffrey Jones and Judy.
We all want to journey to someplace new, someplace more enlightened, someplace where we're moving forward. And this song, though usually associated with traveling to heaven, away from this world, we can also associate it with traveling and moving to the next level, whatever that is for us, in our evolution and spiritual growth. Deep river, my home is over Jordan. Deep river, Lord, I want to cross over into campground. Deep river, my home is over Jordan. Deep river, Lord, I want to cross over into campground. Don't you want to go to that gospel feast, that promised land where all is peace, where all is peace. Deep river, my home is over Jordan. Deep river, Lord, I want to cross over into campground. Walk into heaven and take my seat and cast my crown at Jesus' feet, at Jesus' feet. Deep river, my home is over Jordan. Deep river, Lord, I want to cross over into campground. I want to cross over into campground. I want to cross over into campground.
Thank you, Geoff, for that musical trip we can take in mind and heart. And today we're going to continue our Bible series and looking at one of the great and perhaps most well-known allegories in Genesis, the great flood. Noah building his ark, those who were saved and all the animals he collected, finding new ground, crossing over the flood, forming a new world. The news we hear these days of violence and war, disease, hatred, conflict, natural disasters, makes me kind of wonder if it is time for a great do-over on earth. There is such a story, albeit 4,500 years in the past, the story of Noah and his ark, the great flood that covered the earth. The story fills 4 chapters in the book of Genesis. Now you may wonder, what a story about ancient times, a man who lived to be 950 years old, who survived a world flood by building an ark, a great boat that is only slightly smaller than the Titanic, and cooped up with pairs of every animal known in his world for about a year. What could he have to say to us in 2021? Well, if anyone here needs an ark, I know a guy. Oh. And after the flood, Noah told the animals to go out in the world and to multiply. 2 snakes remained in the ark. Noah said, "Why don't you leave and go multiply?" And they said, "We can't multiply. We're adders." Okay. I had to make sure you were awake and listening. Charles Fillmore, Unity's co-founder, often says, get behind the idea. We could say that we should get inside the story, or use Unity's tradition of metaphysical interpretation of the Bible. That is, read between the lines. Ask yourself, what does the story have to say to me? To get into it, to play a part in it. Well, we can look at the stages, the progressions, the chapters, if you will, of this great do-over story. Noah, according to this important allegory of the Hebrew Scriptures, that is a story that has a hidden meaning that is more essential than any literal facts, recorded in this story this outline of activity. First, Noah was a righteous man. He followed the instructions of Spirit. But he lived in a time that was described a time of great decadence, wickedness. Everything seemed to be going wrong. Disasters everywhere, people fighting, killing. all kinds of things in this ideal creation that God had brought about were going awry. It made me think about our world today. It seems like we read each and every day, we hear, or perhaps we even experience ourselves, things that make us uncomfortable, frightened, distressed. But in these stories, we can find a way. You see, whether it is music, like an old gospel tune that Geoff shared, about moving to a place of peace, or in the story we'll talk about today about building an ark as a safe place in times of trouble. They're all talking about shifting our attention from what is to an inner sense of safety and peace. We need that now, perhaps more than ever, in the coming years. As we continue to see challenges with the pandemic and how it moves around the earth, we need to be able to find a place in our own consciousness and mind that gives us a sense of peace and assurance that we will all get through this. Noah turned to God for guidance and followed his intuition of that guidance in great detail. God directed Noah to build an ark for his protection from the coming flood that would cleanse the earth. Noah, his family, and a great zoo got together, entered that ark, and survived a year-long flood. God made a promise or covenant with Noah that humanity would not be destroyed again. And in the story, the great rainbow in the sky that comes with every rain under the right conditions, that beautiful arc of color, was to be a continual reminder that the earth would be protected. Noah and his descendants and the animals in the ark started all over after the flood. So how can we find these same steps, these same places in mind for our own lives, even without the same details of the ancient world? Do we give time and attention, that is, listen to God-inspired thoughts? Pause and think about that for a moment. Do you consistently turn to a time of silence, prayer, meditation, whatever word you use, but simply a centering of yourself and listening to the voice of life, speaking to you, giving you guidance? If so, do we follow these thoughts and act on them? Do we build an ark for ourselves? That is, create a consistent spiritual practice that is firmly established in our faith, in our mind, that becomes a refuge we can turn to in hard times or in times that seem to call for a do-over, a time when we feel our own life, our workplace, our spiritual community, our city, or whatever needs to just be cleansed. Just start it over. Reboot as we do our computers. Time to just reset it. But to do that and to face a reset without fear, we need to have that safe room inside, that refuge we can turn to. When our routines or our daily lives seem to be suddenly threatened with major change or wipeout, can we tolerate a time of seclusion within trust? and inner centering. Third, what about all those animals? I don't know about you, I don't even have a pet, and I can't quite imagine what am I to learn from this story of gathering a male and female of every animal species in Noah's known world and bringing them on a boat with me, having to feed and care for them. What can that possibly mean? Well, what do they represent in our modern life? Remember, in Noah's story, the animals were saved from the flood in order to multiply in a new earth. After a time of great release and starting over, we need animated ideas, great creative ideas. And we need them in a similar way in that polarity of male and female. We need ideas that we first allow our imagination to flesh out in mind. How can this idea come forth in my life? How can it be fruitful and multiply? What does this idea look like in my life and my world? The other polarity to our imagination is will. Do I have the will to take that idea I have imagined and actually act on it, build it, form it, give it expression in my outer life, community, and world? These animals of the ark are our creative power. We can use them to bring forth good things in our world. So now as we think about that story, Noah followed his guidance. We can do the same in our spiritual practice, our prayer life, our meditation, whatever we do to give ourselves a center. Through that inspiration, God inspired Noah to build an ark, a place of protection and safety in a violent world that was flooding. Can you build an ark within your mind? A safe place? A place that you can retreat to in times of trouble. In the Buddhist tradition of meditation, it was often described in a more humble, simple way, building a hut in mind. Building a hut. Continually returning to it in your prayer practice and creating this safe place in mind. So Noah's story was telling us the same thing. God directed him to form this ark. Now, a little sidelight for those who like historical trivia. The ark, as I said, that was only slightly smaller than the Titanic, a huge boat. 1,500 years later, in the Hebrew Scriptures, the same dimensions that God had given for building the ark were the dimensions given for building the great Solomon's temple in Jerusalem. What an interesting connection between those stories. The ark that saved Noah and replenished the earth was of the same dimensions, at least symbolically, as the great temple that would be built centuries later in Jerusalem. Is there something symbolic in that? Your ark and a spiritual temple, a place of peace and power. So we build this ark even in 2021. You may not have imagined it that way, but it is possible to create that sacred place within your consciousness that is always available to you in times of trouble or difficulty, a place of retreat. Some of us think of Unity Village, Missouri that way, of returning to Unity's headquarters and walking those peaceful grounds. But we don't have to drive to Missouri. We can turn to our imagination to see that place of peace within our mind. Now, we've built an ark. We can turn to it. We can retreat to it, especially in those challenging, stressful times. Eventually, the stress is relieved. The flood is over. The cleansing or renewing process, the forgiveness, the release, the change in our job, our education, our family life, that change is over. Now it's time to repopulate our world. And so we turn again to those symbols of the animals that God told Noah to take 2 of every kind that was known in his world, to take them into the ark, into our consciousness, and preserve those ideas. Keep them safe until it is time for them to become active again in our world through our imagination and our will to form those animated ideas into our good in a new world. Unity speaks of metaphysics, a word some people are very comfortable with. Others sit there and go, I don't know what that means, what that's all about. It sounds like a complicated word, but it's unity's emphasis when we look at biblical tradition and spiritual ideas to say, what does that mean in my life? How is it relevant in my life? That's probably the challenge for many people living in our times. I don't know about you. I don't know exactly how old you are. I know how old I am. I was raised in the church with Bible stories. I can remember so many of them. But many people in our day and time were not taught the Bible stories at all. And so when I bring them up on Sunday, or our licensed teachers, Don and Sharon Rolifson, will be teaching a course on the Hebrew Scriptures in the fall, we have to use this technique of metaphysical interpretation of the Bible. What is this teaching me about my life? How can I make it real in my life? If we don't really get the value and the power of the story. In a very similar way, we listened to Geoff sing a few moments ago. And I, for one, loved resting in the resonance of his voice. But if we want to get to the deeper meaning of the story he sang to us, we have to ask ourselves, what is that story telling me? What is the meaning, the metaphysical meaning of crossing over Jordan or getting to the campground, which was an old way of saying getting to a place of peace and safety, your ideal home? You have to work at it a little bit. Charles Fillmore often referred to it as making a mind movement. A mind movement. That was shifting in our mind or in our consciousness from where we are to a new level of peace and understanding. The gospel songs, the Bible stories, the traditions of many spiritual traditions throughout time have all given us these stories. And to make them powerful and real in our life, we have to make the effort of saying, what is this story telling me about my life? How can I experience that? In a couple of weeks, I'll have the pleasure and honor, along with other ministers around the country, to interview applicants to Unity's ministerial training program, people who want to be trained to become ordained Unity ministers. And one thing we always kind of dwell on in the questions is, tell us your understanding of Unity's tradition of metaphysical interpretation of the Bible. Sometimes they have it right away from their studies. Other times they look at you with these big-eyed eyes. What am I asking? And some students will respond, oh, well, the story of Moses and the 40 years of wandering in the wilderness, that's about when the Hebrews left Egypt and they did all of this, and these were the various stories and so forth. No, that's looking at the story historically. What are the facts? Metaphysically, to understand the story of Moses or of Noah is to say, what does this mean to me? Moses was the bringer of the law in the Hebrew tradition. So what does it mean for James to gain a new understanding of the law or the order of God's world? That is the Moses within me, grasping or understanding the law or principles of living in this world, in this life. Noah and the flood is telling me, not about that ark that was almost the size of the Titanic, but that ark, that place of safety I can create in my mind, and it will always be available to me. I knew many Unity ministers that liked the phrase, if you want to be prepared for the trials of life, the ups and downs, then you better be prayed up. Prayed up. Well, they weren't talking about the formality of prayer. They were talking about keeping a consistent spiritual practice, whatever works for you, but keeping yourself prayed up. Be consistent and regular in that spiritual practice. So then you have that inner ark, or as the Buddhists say, that hut in consciousness that you can retreat to, that you can find peace and centering in when you feel buffeted and slapped around by the activity in the outer world, whether it be a pandemic, a great career change, great change in your family as loved ones pass on. Do you have that hut? Do you have that ark? Do you have that safe room in mind that you can turn to? So let's take a few moments, a little time in the silence. Building that ark is done in little pieces, little times of prayer and assurance. According to the scripture, scholars can't be sure, but it seems that it either took Noah 120 days to build the ark, or in other places, it took 300 years for him to build the ark. In other words, it takes however long it takes to create your inner safe place. Just try. Be consistent. So I invite you to turn your attention within, closing your eyes if you choose, as we begin to create or further build our ark, our inner safe room and mind. Noah followed the inspiration from his time of communion, of being with his God. He followed that in detail. For us, it is to build with reverence, care, love, trust in the goodness of God. Remember, this ark that you endeavor to build in prayer, in mind, its purpose is to protect whatever is most valuable in your life. So you can begin by thinking, what is most important to me? Care of family, my creative purpose in the world, my intention in life, maintaining joy in living, as our daily word suggests, making a difference in your world. What is most important? Because that's what you're going to take into this ark, into this safe place. Now take a moment. Imagine with your mind's eye this important intention. What is most essential in your life? Allow your imagination to give it expression. What is the shape, the color of your intention? How might it express in your life, in your world? God has given you this power of imagination, of creating images in your mind of what your most important intention, how it may take shape in your life. Now call on your spiritual gift of will. That is the power to take an idea and give it expression, give it form, give it color, design it, and build it in your outer life. Those are those animated ideas within mind that you're going to repopulate your world after your time of retreat and rest. Now the time of challenge, of cleansing, of renewal, of washing away all that has been, so that something new can come forth in your life, in your world. So you retreat to the safety within your mind, where you know peace, where you know that you are God's good creation. You rest until the challenge, the cleansing, the release has passed. And then one day, that ark that has protected you through a time of change and challenge comes to a rest. And you can once again walk upon dry land, re-enter the world with new ideas, new opportunities. God, we give thanks for the power of renewal, for the power of our minds to be a safe place, an ark that carries us through troubled times, And then we begin again. Thanks be to God that it is so. And I invite you to gently open your eyes as you are ready. And always give thanks at the end of a time of prayer or meditation. How wonderfully, how wisely God has created us so that we can turn in mind, we can cross over Jordan to the campground, the place of safety and peace. And you can do it using that biblical phrase, in the twinkling of an eye. If you find yourself becoming disturbed in our world, as it is these days, remember, God has given you this gift to create that safe place within that you can turn. Get your grounding. Be centered. Know your peace. And then you will leave that safe place in time and return to the outer world. But remember all of those animals you've got, all those animated, fruitful, multiplying ideas that you can take into your world and see the new possibilities and to begin to build your world again. God is with you, always with you. The only time that we are alone is when we mentally choose to think of ourselves as alone and without help and without any hope. But that's a choice that we have to avoid making. We have to choose to build that ark. And remember, if anyone here needs an ark, I know a guy. Oh, I don't think I'm going to be forgiven for that pun. Anyway, Geoff, would you bless us with some music and get us back to ground again?
I can see clearly now, the rain is gone. I can see all obstacles in my way. Gone are the dark clouds that had me blind. It's gonna be a bright, sunshiny day. It's gonna be a bright, sunshiny day. I think I can make it now. The pain is gone. All of the bad feelings have disappeared. Here is that rainbow I've been praying for. It's gonna be a bright, sunshiny day. Gonna be a bright, sunshiny day. Look all around, there's nothing but blue skies. Look straight ahead, there's nothing but blue skies. I can see all obstacles in my way. Gone are the dark clouds that had me blind. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. One more time. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. Sunshiny day. Sunshiny day. Sunshiny day. Sunshiny day. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. I like that.
Thank you, Geoff. And thank you, Reverend Stacey. Do you ever wonder out about the takeaway? My takeaway from this service will be it's going to be a bright, sunny, sunshiny day, and I know a guy. We are grateful for all the gifts sent by mail and given online or received in this sanctuary. Together, we keep this ministry energized to complete its important mission, so that all who turn to Unity South will be embraced, loved, and empowered by our collective consciousness. Please hold your gift in hand or in mind, for this is our sacred offering as we affirm. Together, divine love flowing through me blesses and multiplies all the good that I am and have, all the good that I give and receive, and I am grateful. Those in the sanctuary may leave their offerings in the container at the back door. And now we have Reverend Stacey for a call to action.
I know a guy. Oh my. It'll be a while before I hear the end of that. Oh well, there are consequences to our actions and our jokes. Anyway, your call to action, your homework assignment is just spend some time reflecting. Do I need to do a little work on my ark, on my place of safety in mind? Do I need to give a little more attention to my spiritual practice, building it, shaping it, making it strong for the days ahead and the challenges of the world? I wanted to give a special thanks for all those that helped with our flea market. They planned for weeks and it happened yesterday, and our parking lot was abuzz with activity and amazing things like Noah's story of cleansing away and starting over. were expressed by many. I know I dug things out. The last item I sold, my mother bought 70 years ago in New Orleans, and I had been storing it away for years. It was pretty, but it was just stuff. And someone with great excitement bought it. And they took it home, and it was new, something to embellish their home with. So we had that amazing transformation of one person's junk to another person's treasure. And there's all kinds of activity. If you haven't been to our garden out behind the building on the west side, go out there and see the new things that have happened, a new wonderful gateway. The plants are growing better than ever. There are places for you to sit back there and enjoy and also pray with our prayer chaplains. And also another metaphysical experience of Noah's flood. The Christensen family has been working hard, and like a great flood, the other day it rolled through here and tore our old decrepit shed to smithereens and washed it away. And now there are new materials and soon a new ark for our lawnmower and lawn equipment will be built. And so we're grateful to see the changes all around us here at Unity South. So let us now close this time with our prayer for protection. And think about it. This is something that builds an ark in your mind too. As we consistently share it together and you use it individually in your own prayer time, it's just a few lines, but it's a powerful tool to build that safe place in mind. So I invite you to stand as we speak the prayer for protection. Together, the light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. That can be part of your homework. Dwell on that one penultimate line. Wherever we are, God is. Think, what does that mean to me? What is that building in my mind? And now for fun, I invite you downstairs. Gerald and Francine have put out a feast for us to enjoy. So take the opportunity to go downstairs, visit, and have refreshments. Thank you for your presence. Thank all of you who joined us online and added to the consciousness the joy of this service. And so it is.